Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the July 25th, 2022 meeting in the Wayne Westland Community Schools Board of Education. It is 7 p.m. We are going to begin with Agenda 100.23, which is the Pledge of Allegiance to the Flag, led by the Assistant Superintendent of Human Resources, Mr. Michael Capote.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, sir. Good evening, Ms. Hines. Roll call vote, please.
All right, we have Mr. Buckaloo.
Here.
We have Dr. Weaver is absent, excused, and we have Mr. Neal,
I'm here.
and we have Mr. Alfred.
I'm here.
Mr. Cox.
Here.
Ms. Hines here, and Ms. Mays, excused as well, sir?
Yes.
All right, so let the record show we have 5.
Thank you. We have a quorum. Next item on our agenda is 102.23, which is recognitions and presentations. Dr. Dignan.
Thanks, President Cox. Good evening, board, community. It's with great pleasure today that we're recognizing John Racy and his wife, Natalie. Their commitment and definition of Wayne pride, they live it every day. Since I've come into the district, they're always looking for ways to partner with our school district and always kind of paving roads, whether it's with the Kronk Gym or whatever it may be. So it's with great honor. We have an award that I'd like to present to them this evening for their commitment to our community and our kids. So if you guys would come out front. This is just a resolution of appreciation for both of your commitments to our school district and our students and staff. So if we could, I'm going to give this to you if you want to both hold it and get a picture.
Next item, Dr. Dignan.
Next item is our progress towards our goal attainment K-8 update. Mr. Joe Orban, who behind the scenes is like a mad scientist crunching all the numbers and data throughout the year. He's going to give a quick presentation on the update of how we're doing. Mr. Orban.
Thank you. Good evening, everybody. Just a little refresher. Make sure I'm working this correctly. There we go. The Michigan Department of Education, beginning with the last year in the law, required each district to administer benchmark assessments. And goals had to be set related to student growth based on those, by the law, based on those benchmark assessments. And all the goals that we have for the district related to our benchmark assessments were aligned to the COVID-19 learning plan from last year. All of these goals apply to all buildings and all grade levels K through 8, and are to be reported by the building and district mid-year and at the end of the 21-22 school year. So we did a presentation January or February, and this is the end of the year report on our benchmark data. So the benchmark that we choose to use in Wayne Westland, we've actually been using it for quite some time, is NWEA MAP. You'll often hear to it referred to as just NWEA. NWEA is the nonprofit actually, and MAP is the actual assessment that we use. It's one of 4 assessments approved by MDE. Approximately 70% of schools in Michigan use NWEA as the benchmark assessment that they've chosen to incorporate. Like I said, we've been using it since 2013, so when it came around, it was not new to us. A little refresher on it, NWEA is a computer adaptive test. What that means is that questions increase or decrease in difficulty depending on whether the student gets the question right or wrong. And by adapting the questions to the student, you're able to quickly zero in on the approximate level of the student's achievement on that particular day. NWEA has reported out on something called the RIT scale. That's their version of a scale score. If you're familiar with standardized testing, scale scores are used to essentially align different versions of the test so that you can compare scores over time and between different versions, so they all line up on the same scale for comparison. It's, like I said, useful for growth over time. And in the case of the RIT scale, one of the great things about NWEA for us is it's the same regardless of the grade or the age of the student. So as students adjust, whether they're a second grader, seventh grader, 12th grader, they all plotted on the same scale. So as students grow, you can see consistent growth. Just like when you put a measuring tape up as you're measuring your kids as they grow, it's all on the same scale. So what's a growth goal? And that we talked about the MDE wants goals based on growth. So the NWEA test provides each student with a RIT score, as I mentioned, on that scale. Each student gets a goal based on NWEA norms on the 2020 norm study. I want to point out that data was collected between 2015 and 2019, and the actual study was done in 2020. So it was all pre-pandemic. I think that's an important piece to keep in mind when you're looking at goals and growth. So that's on normal situation. We haven't exactly been normal in the last couple of years. So I think that's an important piece of information in that. So the goal is set for each student based on the average growth for students in the same grade with the same starting RIT. So for example, if you had a fifth grade student who had a 200 score in the fall, their growth goal would be set on what is the average growth, or what was the average growth in that study, so over those previous years, for a fifth grader that had a 200 score in the fall. Where did they end up at the end of the year? So that's how they set the goal. What's the average growth? Keep in mind that student growth is not a straight line. Just like your kids have growth spurts, they have growth spurts in their education as well. They learn at different speeds. Sometimes they grow a lot, sometimes they grow a little, but what you're looking for over time is growth. If a student doesn't meet their goal, that doesn't mean that they did not grow. It just meant that they grew a little less than average at that time. In an average school, you would expect, based on how these scores are reported, that it would be normal and expected for half the students to hit their goal and half the students not, because it's an average. So some kids are going to grow more than average, some kids are going to grow a little bit less, but over time, it's normal because you're reporting on the mean. And it's also important to keep in mind that the benchmark data is not the end-all be-all. It's 1 point of data on 1 day for each student. When we evaluate students, we need to take in a whole plethora of data to help make decisions about each individual student. So the goals. The goals were set, and a quick summary for middle of the year and end of the year. Based on what I said, the goal was for us to have average growth, at least for each one of our students, that was the goal that the district set. And you can see for each of the periods, middle of the year, end of the year, reading and mathematics, the goal was 50% or more or at that mean. We were hoping to have all the students hit the mean or above. So this is the summary. As you can take a look at this, this is a breakdown by the reportable subgroups. In the state of Michigan, the reportable subgroup has to have at least 30 students to be considered a subgroup by the state. In the blue, you see the scores in the winter, the growth scores on average. And you take a look on the right-hand side, that's the scores from the spring results. across the board, we were in the 40s. That's on the low end average. 40 to 60 is kind of considered within the normal range, around 50. But to be fair, we were on the lower side of average. So we've got some work to do in abnormal times. But if you take a look at between winter and spring, certain groups did a little bit better. Our special education students slipped a little bit from the winter goals to the spring goals, and our African American students slipped a little bit from the winter to the spring. Not a huge drop, but a drop, and it needs to be noted. Oh, real quick, as I move to the grade levels here, as we report out by grades, again, winter and spring reporting by grade. Kindergarten, I want to point out, they did a different test in the fall. It was called the KRA. It's a readiness assessment for kindergarten specifically that we use in the fall that the state had sponsored. We are not doing that next year. The state has dropped it, but kindergarten growth is reported from winter to spring instead of fall to spring because they took the KRA in the fall. In the grades, a lot of them pretty much the same. Elementary held steady. Middle school, we had a bit of a drop. I suspect that the middle school they ran a contest in the winter, a little bit more motivation. I suspect that's where the 6 through 8 drop happened, is they weren't quite as motivated in the spring, but that's where the drop was. So that's the quick summary. Full report, again, required by the state of Michigan. The full report is presented to the Board of Ed, and it'll be posted on the district website. Any questions? Yes,
Mel?
Melody.
Yes, thank you. I just had a couple of questions. So even though like maybe less than half of the students, achieve this data or these qualifications, what do you do with the in-between, like the ones that didn't make it? Like, what is the strategy to bring them up to par?
Well, I mean, that's a myriad of, one of the big things that we've got to do, quite frankly, is we got to get kids in school, and we got to get them, our attendance is a big factor. If you look at some of the data on our attendance, that's probably the biggest things. We had a lot of kids miss a lot of school last year, and as a starting point, we got to find a way to get kids in school.
And that was another question too, is I know we have some serious challenges with the busing, because my son, he went to Westland Community High School, and it's like every other week, it's like no bus, and like you said, with transportation, if the kids can't get to school, it makes it very difficult for them to learn. So what do we have in place for like next year to help us get better scores and make sure children are in school?
Well, transportation, I might have to defer to somebody else about transportation issues, but I mean, that was a noticeable trend. When you look at the attendance data, that was a big difference from, we looked at a lot of data prior to 2000, obviously the shutdown year 1920, we looked at a lot of the attendance data and compared last year's attendance data, the 21-22 data, to 18-19 and before, and our attendance was a serious issue. Our average attendance was probably, for each school, was probably 10% less than it had been prior to. And kids who are missing more school, we take a look at, not only are they in school, but are they missing portions of school? So we also have kids showing up late. They're missing instruction. And that was the data that leaped out to me, is that our kids who need to be in front of their teachers.
And I noticed like certain schools in certain areas, because you know how like the poverty situation causes a lot of issues with education, learning, and things of that nature, and transient. Because I was talking to one of the principals, and we were talking about this certain school that had a truancy problem, and we're trying to figure out, if it's an elementary, it's like what's causing it? Because it can't be the kids, like a parent issue. So now we got to dig deep, and say, well, what's causing the parents not to get the kids to go to school? Is it homelessness? Due with a lot of people losing jobs? Is it like something like that? Is it mental illness? Is it alcohol? Is it drugs? You know what I'm saying? Because it's got to be something. If you're in not kindergarten, but like elementary school, that's your parents' responsibility to get them to school. So if they're not getting to school, like, what is the problem? You know what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah.
digging deep to find out.
I understand. I know I can't speak to it I'm not involved in those discussions specifically, but I know that I'm aware that there's a lot of discussion about that issue with Dr. Dignan and various committees, and I know he's working with communities and police departments and mayors and public officials to try and, it's not just a school problem, it's a community problem that we've all got to pitch in and get our hands into to make a difference.
Thank you.
Yep.
Mr. Albright?
Joe, would you expand a little bit on what it means to be nationally normed? I mean, some of us know really well, but
Right.
I think the expectation would be that if we had any particular cohort that performed exactly as the nation as a whole, that number would be 50%.
Correct.
Okay.
Correct.
Would you expand on that a little bit?
Yeah, and nationally normed, we're talking all over the country. NWEA is a national test. Everybody's familiar with M-STEP, that's just Michigan. NWEA is given across the country. So I gave that example of a fifth grader at a 200. They're not only being compared to kids in Michigan, but Arizona and California and Texas and Massachusetts and all over the country. NWEA is very, very widespread test. So NWEA has millions and millions of data points when they pull these assessment or the norm when they do their norming study. They've got you're not talking about a few kids, you're talking about a ton of kids, and when you average that out, essentially you get a normal curve, and 50% falls in the middle. So that's the average growth. Did that help? Sometimes I get in the weeds a little bit, and I apologize for that.
One more question.
Sure.
I know Dr. Dave's been doing an awesome job of doing these summer programs. So I'm thinking too, with the learning loss with the COVID and these summer programs, I think that should help increase the scores as well with those different opportunities, the free opportunities that we've given our children over the summer. So
And we'll-
hopefully coming in, it should be better.
Hopefully that would show up in the fall test, because what we will administer NWA in the fall again, and we'll compare that to how, where our average scores in the fall of 21, where are they in the fall of 22? That's how you can take a look at your summer school and see if it had an impact.
Other comments? Mr. Buckler?
Yeah. First of all, Mr. Orban, we're so fortunate to have you here with your capacity to take a look at these numbers and interpret what they really mean. When I look at these numbers, I look at winter to spring, I look at building to building, and I'm tempted to make comparisons, and I know that making comparisons at that point for somebody like me is the totally inappropriate thing to do, but rather what I should be doing is asking questions, and I'm sure that's what you do. Why is it that we see these things? One thing that struck my attention, and I've seen these over the years, as we move from kindergarten, first grade through fourth grade, we do seem to see year after year a positive result from winter to spring. But as we move through fifth through eighth grade, that positive result from winter to spring doesn't always seem to be there. And again, that's a year after year thing by my recollection. Am I right on that?
Yeah, a little bit. It's been more severe the last couple of years. But yeah, I don't know if spring hits middle schooler, but they're compared to other middle school kids. So I think we've got to look at some things that we're doing in the middle school to be honest, because again, our students, they're being compared to students who are in the same grade. So if we're losing ground in seventh grade, then we've got to take a look at what we're doing, because they're being compared to other seventh graders, not being compared to seniors or not being compared to kindergartners. It lands on the scale, but those norms are built based on kids at the same grade.
Can you offer an opinion on the nature of the evaluation tool as we move from fourth to fifth grade?
Which
Is
evaluation
the
tool?
tool more rigorous, or?
You're talking about NWA?
You said it's the same for everybody, but
Oh, well, I mean, yeah, it's pretty consistent across the board. You know what I mean? That's one of the strengths of these benchmark assessments versus when you talk about things like M-STEP. M-STEP, you got to understand what tests are designed to do. And so M-STEP is designed to measure a certain grade's curriculum. So when a student takes the third grade test, they're only gonna see third grade questions. Where on NWEA, kids are gonna be where they're at. You know what I mean? So if they're a third grader that's capable of doing, for lack of a better term, fifth grade work, they're gonna see fifth grade questions. So it's much more stable to compare growth that way, because all the kids end up on the same scale.
Okay, thank you.
Other comments?
One more. With the NWEA, is that the one too where it increases when the kid does better? You know that one, is that
Yes,
test? Okay.
that's
so
the test.
depending on
As students get questions right,
the harder,
the
more rigorous.
crescent increase in difficulty.
Okay. So could they have a correlation to sometimes the score as well? Like if it's more rigorous?
Well, the questions get rigorous, but if they miss, so and this is really hard for some of our higher achieving students, but it's expected on the NWEA MAP test that you're gonna get half the questions wrong. Because you're gonna see questions that are too hard for you, and that's normal. Cause they're gonna zero in on where you're at. And kids who are used to, we have to prepare our kids to take this, because our kids who are generally very successful get frustrated a little bit because they can't get them all right. But yeah, you're right, this is that test that questions get harder and easier.
Other comments? Thank you.
Thanks, Mr.
Thank you.
Next item on our agenda is citizens' comments. This is the portion of the meeting reserved for citizens who wish to address the board on the items which appear on tonight's agenda. Is there anybody that wishes to address the board on agenda items at this time? Okay, seeing none, we'll move on to the consent agenda, 104.23. Is there a motion on consent?
So moved.
Moved by Mr. Albrecht, support.
Support.
Support by Ms. Hines. Roll call vote, please, Ms. Hines.
Mr. Buckaloo,
Yes,
Mr. Albrecht.
Yes.
Mr. Weaver, I'm not sorry, Mr. Neal,
Yes.
Ms. Hines, yes, and President Cox.
Yes.
Let the record show votes, carries 5-0.
Thanks, Mel. Next item on our agenda is 105.23, which is the Finance Committee report. Typically, the Finance Committee report is delivered by the treasurer who's absent. So a member of the Finance Committee, Mr. Neal, if you would, do you have that document?
I do. The Finance Committee meeting of the Board of Trustees of Wayne Westland Community Schools was held Monday, July 11th, 2022, beginning at 3:30 p.m. via Zoom platform. Mr. Spizak provided updates and information regarding the review and approval of technology purchases. This purchase will come to the board only for approval due to the shipping time constraints. He also sought approval for exterior digital signage replacement at John Glenn, Wayne Memorial, and William D. Ford. This project will be funded by ESSER funds. He explained that to the committee that the cost and timeline for replacing the heating line at Wayne Memorial, and Mr. Spizak requested approval to auction district vans. He also stated that the request for proposal will go out for the purchase of two-way bus radios and cell phone boosters. This project will be paid for using bond funds, and any legacy costs, if any, will be charged to the general fund. Mr. Spizak and Mr. Vanderzee informed the committee that the request for quote will go out for the replacement of stadium sound systems at both high school stadiums. Both Mr. Spizak and Mr. Vanderzee shared information regarding the request for proposal to purchase 100 interior digital display panels to be placed in cafeterias, lobbies, offices, commons, and multi-purpose rooms. Panels will be purchased using bond funds. Mr. Spizak provided an update for the 2023-24 bond projects and furniture packages. Mrs. Cleaves reported the investment report, the monthly check register, and the budget to actual. Mr. Dignan, or Dr. Dignan rather, shared appreciation for the staff and provided district updates. Mr. Neal and Ms. May expressed appreciation for the improved communication. The meeting was adjourned at 3:56 p.m. The Finance Committee meeting will take place August 9th, 2022 at 4:30 PM. End of report.
Thank you, Mr. Neal. 106.23 on our agenda is review and approval of business, service, and finance. Ms. Cleaves would normally deliver the status on these items. The pre-audit communication from Plant Moran, I would like the board to know was received by Ms. May and the school district on June 13th, 2022 from Jamie Eisenmacher, who's a partner at Plant Moran. It identifies the scope and the planning as to how the audit will be conducted. And a copy of this communication is on file in the office. If anybody would like to see it, it's also attached to the agenda this evening. The next item on 106.23 is a recommendation for signage replacement. The signage replacement is, of course, in your packet. The cost for the signage at John Glenn, Wayne Memorial, and William D. Ford would not exceed $138,855, and it will be paid for through ESSER funds. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Moved by Mr. Albrecht, supported by Mr. Neal. Discussion?
One question,
Mel?
Dr. Dignan. I know Wayne Memorial has had troubles in the past with the electric system and the wires, and I know the generators. That has something to do with it. Is it just old wiring or something? 'Cause I know they had some problems. Remember with the power going off at the Wayne Memorial?
Yeah, I'm not sure. I can look into it. I'd imagine
Okay.
it's probably wiring. These interactive boards are gonna be different than the ones we've seen in the district in the past. You can play videos and things like that. And again, I think it takes more of a Wi-Fi
Okay.
signal than anything else, so. But I can look into that and get back to you.
Thank you, sir.
Other discussion? Roll call vote, please, Mel.
We have Mr. Neal.
Yes.
We have Mr. Albrecht.
Yes.
Ms. Hines, yes. Mr. Buckaloo?
Yes.
President Cox?
Yes.
The motion passes 5-0.
Thank you. Item number 3 is a recommendation for emergency heating line replacement. Let's see where we are here. Mr. Spezak shared that the change order is over $50,000. It needs to be brought to the board. The line runs from the powerhouse at the Alumni Arena, has a leak and needs to be replaced. The Long Mechanical has given us a proposal to repair the line for a total of $190,899.27, not 26 cents, 27. And will be charged also to ESSER for mechanicals. The state has already approved it. This is on our agenda tonight. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Moved by Mr. Neal, support by Mr. Buckaloo. Discussion? Roll call vote, please.
Mr. Albrecht?
Yes.
Mr. Buckaloo?
Yes.
Mr. Neal?
Yes.
Ms. Hines, yes. President Cox?
I vote yes.
The motion carries 5-0.
The next item 4 is recommendation for to auction surplus equipment. Approval is requested from the board to auction off district surplus equipment, the 4 maintenance vehicles that Mr. Neal spoke of earlier. This comes from Mr. Spezak. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Moved by Mr. Albrecht, support by Mr. Buckaloo. Is there discussion?
Just one comment.
Mr. Buckaloo?
For those who might not know, any proceeds from this auction go to the general fund. So if you are wondering where that money was going, that's where it goes.
If you're wondering how much money it was going to be, I invite you to take a look at these 4 vehicles. They still work great, but, any other discussion? Roll call vote, please.
Mr. Neal?
Yes.
Mr. Buckaloo?
Yes.
Mr. Albrecht?
Yes.
Ms. Hines, yes. President Cox?
Yes,
5-0, motion carries.
thank you. Next item on our agenda is the, item 5 is a recommendation for school safety crossing guard. Let's see where I am here. Do I have background on this, Dr. Dignan?
Yeah, this is in collaboration with our schools in Westland, with the police department there, to hire safety patrol people within the parking lots at the start of school and the end of school. I believe it altogether, it's like 26 positions. But again, it's a partnership. It's like the same as how we split the cost of a SRO. We're splitting half the cost of the program with the city of Westland.
Okay. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Moved by Mr. Buckaloo, support.
Support.
Mr. Albrecht? Discussion?
Oh, I had a quick discussion. So, I do a lot of grant writing, and there's a safer grant, and I'll get that to you so you can see it. And it does take care of like safer roads, and it covers like the crossing guards and things of that nature too. So I'll forward that over, because that way, any way we can save money,
Absolutely.
and there's grants to provide it for us and safer for our kids, so I'll send that over to you on that
Okay,
one.
thank you.
Further discussion? No. Roll call vote, please.
Mr. Buckaloo?
Yes.
Mr. Albrecht?
Yes.
Mr. Neal?
Yes.
Ms. Hines, yes. President Cox?
Yes.
Motion carries 5-0.
And recommendations for classroom multimedia renovation project. Dr. Dignan?
Well, I'm gonna have Carl get on and speak to this. He's been working the last year on our pilot.
Thank you, Dr. Dignan and Board of Education. You might recall last month we brought some teachers with us talking about this process that Dr. Dignan just referred to that has been the last year. And we talked about the fact we were going out for bids with their recommendations from actual classroom use on what was going to be most effective for instructional technology moving forward. I'm excited to announce that we updated the Finance Committee, and I thank the members of the Finance Committee for allowing us to bring to you a recommendation this evening ahead of going through the process with the Finance Committee in order to try to get as much of that technology in place as possible for our teachers as quickly as possible with the lead times and that sort of thing. We did receive a total of 4 bids for the specified technology that the teachers settled on. The 4 bids, one of the bids was very low. And if you look at the report that we had put together, you'll notice we did post-bid interview that vendor to find out, gosh, could it be possible that we could buy this technology for less than the lowest number we thought? And of course, it was very non-compliant. They missed a lot of stuff. It happens. And of course, they said they couldn't honor their bid for that cost. We had 2 other bidders. We looked at and reviewed the bids in detail. We're pleased to announce that the base bids were low enough that we could take alternates to get slightly larger and a little bit more technology that the teachers had said, if we can, we'd like this and we'd like this. So we've added those to the package. The total of the recommended package is slightly over $5.1 million. You might recall that last month when I brought you the update, we said that it would not exceed $5.5 million. So we're very excited about the fact that we're slightly below the upper limit of what we expected to spend on this technology, and we're going to do some fantastic things for teachers in the classrooms. The award recommendation is for a company called VSC, who has been working with us in our technology upgrades for the safety and security systems that have been going into our buildings the last couple of years. It's one of 3 contractors who have been doing some of that work for us. So we're very pleased that they were as competitive as they were, and we're very excited about the pricing that we've seen. So at that point, any questions that Dr. Dignan or the members would have, would be happy to address.
Thank you, sir. Is there a motion on the recommendation, on the resolution?
So
Moved by Mr.
Support.
Albrecht, support by Ms. Hines. Discussion? Mr. Albrecht?
I did look up last month's presentation, and I was excited to see it was almost $380,000 less. So, good work. Thank you.
Any other discussion? Roll call vote, please, Mel.
Mr. Buckaloo?
Yes.
Mr. Weaver? I'm sorry. Mr. Neal?
Yes.
Mr. Albrecht?
Yes.
Ms. Hines? Yes. President Cox?
I vote yes.
We have 5-0, motion carries.
And thank you for all your work and your committee's work getting us to this point at this time so that we were ready to go.
Yes, thank you.
Appreciate that. The next item on our agenda is 107.23, review and approval of human resource items. Mr. Kapokla.
Thank you, President Cox. This evening, it's my pleasure to introduce Mr. Corey Gildersleeve. He's joined here by his wife, Barb, this evening. And so Corey, his background is pretty expansive. So Corey's been in education for a little over 20 years. He has 10 years of administrative experience. He's a proud graduate, fire up Chips, from Central Michigan University in '98, and he had his bachelor's degree in physical health and physical education and health. His Master's of Arts was earned in 2003 from Marygrove College, and then he received his Ed Specialist degree in 2014 from Eastern Michigan University. Go Eagles. The other piece that goes along with Corey, there are a couple things. He is known throughout Washtenaw County as a turnaround specialist. So during his time, he's had 7 years as a building principal at Ypsilanti Community High School. And during this time there, he spent close to a decade in that building working with those students and staff to really focus on social, emotional, and academic growth. We are absolutely fortunate to have him join our team at Wayne Memorial High School. Welcome, Corey Gildersleeve.
Thank you.
I should
there
say
a motion?
welcome Corey
Yeah,
Gildersleeve
sit down first.
unofficially,
Walk slow, Corey. Walk slow.
We still haven't voted.
because there's a vote.
Is
I
there a
don't mean to
motion?
set you up there,
So
Corey,
moved.
but
Support.
Moved by Mr. Albrecht, support by Ms. Hines. Any discussion? Roll call vote, please. Walk slow.
Mr. Buckaloo,
Yes.
Mr. Albrecht.
Yes.
Ms. Hines, yes. Mr. Neal.
Yes.
President Cox.
Yes,
5-0.
we're all excited for you to be here, so we got a little ahead of ourselves.
Thank you. Good evening, Board of Education, Dr. Dignan, Cabinet, and Wayne Westland, community school members, staff. I see some staff are here from Wayne Memorial. I'm joined tonight by my wife, Barb. We're an education family. She's a special education teacher in Ann Arbor at Pattengale Elementary. And I see Wayne Memorial Assistant Principal Don Loomis is here as well. Thank you for being here, both of you. Truly an honor to be selected to be the new principal at Wayne Memorial High School. I'm learning so much about Wayne pride and joining the Zebra family. Excited, ready to go, take on a new challenge, the next step of my career. I know this is going to be a great move for me and my family. We're going to bet ourselves into this community and get things going, and so that you can look in all the things that we're doing and take great pride in our work that we're going to do for the Zebra family and the Zebra Nation. So thank you all. Appreciate you. Thank you.
Welcome. Where are we here? Is that it? We're superintendent's report. 108.23, superintendent's report and comments. Dr. Dignan.
Thanks, President Cox. First of all, I want to say congratulations to Mr. Gildersleeve. We're so excited about him getting started, and again, his commitment to kids and the profession, as Mr. Kapolka talked about, is unbelievable. In Washtenaw County, he is known as a turnaround principal and just getting people kind of rowing in the same direction. So I'm excited about the electricity that's about to happen in Wayne Memorial, connecting with Zebra Nation. They're doing so many things that are phenomenal, so you're just going to add to that. I also want to thank Mr. Kapolka. Mr. Kapolka recently has been named the superintendent at Chelsea Public Schools, so on Friday will be his last day. It's incredible what he's been able to accomplish with this team in a short time, and we're going to miss him. Probably more so as a human being. Mr. Kapolka is one of the greatest, I always call him a five-tool educator, one of the best educators I've ever been around, but he's an even better person. So, Mike, we thank you for everything that you've done in the last year for Wayne Westland Schools.
I appreciate it.
The other thing, I want to congratulate Mr. Beebe, and I saw him in the crowd. He's been selected as one of the 15 fellows for the InCan College and Career Readiness Fellow Program. So that's a great honor. Congratulations, Daryl. We have a transportation's running a garage sale July 28th, 29th, and 30th. The money is to raise funds for Joni and Friends family retreats. This is for special education students and their families to enjoy camps up in northern Michigan. So hopefully, if anybody's interested, please contact Chad Kundrick. He's a director of transportation, and he can kind of get you set up. We renamed the old Tinkham, Wayne Westland Innovative Academy, and Mr. Orban sometimes still calls it Tinkham, so we're trying to work with him there. But I also want to say our SEL team, made up of Amanda Dybus and Daryl Beebe, have been working with Henry Ford Optimum Eyes to bring their Share Your Vision program to Wayne Westland Community Schools. So we're excited about that. We had over 35 teachers take part last week with Be Able, and we heard Mr. Orban talk about NWEA. Be Able is a literacy kind of intervention that connects and links to NWEA. The people and they were coming to us from New Jersey. We're so impressed with the turnout of our teachers and educators. So I wanted to make comment of that, and I think I'll end there. But again, Mike, I just want to say thank you for everything that you've done for our district.
Next item on our agenda, 109.23, is citizens' comments on non-agenda items. This is the portion of the meeting reserved if you'd like to address the board on anything at all. Doesn't need to be on the agenda. Anyone care to address the board? Okay, seeing nobody, we'll move to,
Over there, Mr. President.
please,
Sorry, I didn't fill out
up here to the, will you do that before you leave tonight?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yes.
You could state your name.
My name is Renee Bergeron, and my student goes to John Glenn High School. And I wanted to comment on the NWEA. I think that we need to keep in mind that these kids were taken out of school for 2 years, while other states, which this is a national test, right? It is against other schools that were kept in the whole entire year. So the damage that we did to our kids by keeping them out of school is apparent on these NWEA scores. And I think that's something that we can't blame it on absentee, we can't blame it on transportation, right? We need to also focus on what we did to these kids and not do this again to them. That's all that I wanted to say.
Thank you for your comments. Please remember to fill out a form for us before you leave. Anyone else? Mr. Kapolka?
I'll make it official and go to the pulpit.
It's not a pulpit, Mr. Kapolka.
Podium.
When you're
Better
talking,
not
it's a
be,
pulpit.
Yeah, no, I appreciate it. I just wanted to have an opportunity to address the community and really address the board and thank each and every single one of you for investing in me, both personally and professionally. You know, when I ended up, being selected and hired here back in November, it was never with the intent after 8.5 months or 9 months to step away and then go back to the community that I came from. But it was one of those opportunities, much like when this occurred. It was something that was out of the blue, it was unexpected, and it was also something I felt at the time that I couldn't pass up. But there are just kind of two thoughts that I wanted to share with you. One, this school community is really special. And it's something that I learned pretty quickly within the first month that I was here. It really has turned into an extension of my own personal and professional family. And I really believe, it's family that you're born into, and it's also the family that by choice that you have the ability to learn from. I learned so much during my time here from really the community, your leadership as a board, from Dr. Dignan. It's impossible not to be excited about where we're going in this district, and a lot of it has to do with the vision of Dr. Dignan, all of our executive team, our district team, all of our staff, and it's one of those pieces that I know, even though I'm stepping away and I'm going back to Chelsea to lead and to serve, this is an extension of my family, and I just want to say thank you.
Thank you, Mike. Review and recommendations of the members of the Board of Education. Mr. Buckaloo, we have no one to fight with tonight as Ms. May is not here.
Yes, I don't know what to say about that. Well, first, my congratulations to Mayor Reza and to his wife for their support for the community. As mayor, he's done a great job for the city of Wayne, which is my hometown. And even before he was mayor, he edited and published the Dispatch newspaper, which has always been a positive voice for the things that are going on in the city of Wayne. So he certainly deserved all of the accolades that we sent his way today, and more than that too. So Mayor Reza and his wife are good people, and we're pleased that they're a part of our greater family. Mr. Gildersleeve, congratulations. I think we're going to quickly come to appreciate the special skill set that you bring to us. I hope that you're equally appreciative of the opportunities that Wayne Westland presents you to do good things for kids. Welcome to the family. Then I guess we've heard some things about technology today, Mr. Vandersleeve. I'm sorry, I'm saying it wrong. Carl, the information you brought us today is welcome. Not just the price, but what it's going to do for our classroom teachers. And it's just indicative of the kinds of things that are going on in the district. Programs and partnerships. Day after day, we're seeing new evidence of that. And I can see this district becoming a destination. We're supposedly in the slow season in education. Kids are on summer break. Teachers are taking advantage of that. They're away from the classrooms. But here at central office, it's probably the really busy season with all of the interviews, with the hirings that have to be done. And I can't help but imagine that the people who are applying to come to this school district for job opportunities are doing so in large part because of what they see happening in this district. I used the expression earlier today, the Wayne School District used to be considered a lighthouse district. And I think that we're rapidly reapproaching that designation again. Wayne Westland is going to be a lighthouse district. People are going to look to us to see how it's done. The signage that we're having up, it's new and it's shiny, and the technology is new and shiny. The work that Mr. Orban is doing to kind of tease out the issues that we have with our testing, all of those things, again, with the partnerships that Dr. Dignan is presenting to us, are making us a special place, a destination for people who are looking to forward their educational careers. So I thank you all for that.
Thank you, Mr. Buckaloo. Ms. Hines?
Yes, I'd like to congratulate Mr. Gildersleeve. Welcome to the zebra family. I'm a fellow zebra myself. So yeah, I definitely love your dedication to our community. I also like to thank all the people who did all the hard work with the NWEA. And what I like too about our district is we don't waste money. When we have our money, we make sure we get every penny out of it. So with the bids, you guys did a wonderful job. And I'd like to give a shout out to Mr. Daryl Beebe. He's an amazing musician. Yes, so this guy has some amazing talent.
And humble.
And he's got some, he actually performed at the Inkster Summer Jazz Festival. This guy was amazing. And he's got some things coming up with Alexander Sanchez. So if you ever, I'm telling you, this guy on the saxophone, the best ever. So we have some amazing talents, and congratulations as well on your accomplishments. I'm excited because you know I'm the cheerleader for the district. Football time is coming, guys. Get ready. I got this in my packet. So it looks like they're going to have their first John Glenn tailgate. It's going to be music, games, fun, vendors, food trucks, staff fellowship. It's John Glenn versus Heartland, 7 p.m. Looks like that's going to be Thursday, August 25th at 4:30 until game time. So just reserve your spots. It's going to be amazing. So this is like my favorite time of the year. I call it Friday Night Lights. My son hates it. I'm like, come on, we're going to a football game. And it's a good way to bring the community together. And then one thing I do like about our bond pass, and we have beautiful buildings. Everything is new, updated, new fields. And then with this thing we just passed with this sound system in the stadiums, it's just amazing. So I'm excited to see our bands, our kids, our football players, and our other sports as well, because we do have other sports that play during the year. But, you know, we are really doing a great job. I like how Dr. Dignan has all of our kids come for all those different awards, different sports programs to, like, really boost it. And, too, like with the NFL flag football, we got the cheerleaders. So one thing I like about that, too, it helps, one, with mental health, and, two, it helps get our kids, you know, moving. You know, it cuts, like, the diabetes and the things that you're getting in sports. And it does help with your self-esteem and grades as well. So, hey, Wayne Westland, we're doing a good job. Congratulations. We're a huge family. I love you, Michael. I want to say, Michael, I love you. So, congratulations on your new venture. You have been amazing to Wayne Westland. And even like God, he has us do certain things for certain times, you know. So, you were here for a purpose. You served your purpose, and we will always love you for whatever you did for us. And you're going to do an amazing job in Chelsea. So, congratulations on your promotion.
Thank you, Ms. Hines. Mr. Neal?
Yes, welcome, Mr. Gildersleeve. Wayne Memorial is a great school with great staff and great students, and I know they're really going to appreciate what you have to offer them. And thanks for coming to us. And Mr. Kapolka, you not only are a talented man who got a lot done while you were here, but you have that unique combination of being a wonderful human being as well. Very pleasant to be around, and you truly be missed. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Neal. Mr. Albrecht?
So I want to thank Mike Kapolka for leading us in the pledge. It was kind of disappointing we didn't find out whether you liked art or math, or what your dog's name was.
I was waiting for the certificate at the end to ask.
You know, the whole bio,
Color.
but thanks. Congrats also to John and Natalie Racy for their recognition, for their contribution to our community, and in particular, partnering with our district. Thank you, Joe Orban, for your presentation on goal attainment progress. I think the one thing we left out is that 47% attain their goal actually implies that some of them surpassed it. And we tend not to think that way. Some mentions about what had happened over the last couple of years. Students still exceeded and succeeded very well. Thank you, Plant Moran, for your pre-audit communication with us. That was important. And then, Corey, congratulations. I remember the job. You got a lot in front of you. It's a big place, and I know you'll do a good job for us. Good luck.
Thank you, Mr. Albrecht. I'd like to say for a human resources director to come into the job when there are 5 bargaining units? 8 bargaining units? I knew the number, I just wanted to say it. All at the same time. He just got the job and settled them all without one peep. And I thought reasonably. And you did a remarkable job. And as soon as I heard someone was looking at you, I knew they'd be smart enough to grab you. And I'm glad it was your hometown. I think it's going to be great for them. It's going to be great for you. Sorry to lose you. Forget our phone number when it comes to needing people. You know how flippant I was when you were stealing Livonias? I'm going to change all that.
Duly noted, sir.
I think the thing about our school district is the caliber of man that's leaving and the caliber of man that just came. And if you look at their resumes, what they've accomplished in their life, the fact that they want to be here says a lot about the school district. And I think it says a lot about our superintendent. So, Superintendent, Dr. Dignan, thank you for being the kind of light people want to follow. I'd like to make a couple of statements about my friend, John Racy. We gave him a plaque today, which I'm desperately trying to find. Thing is, I probably don't even need to read it, because everybody knows who John and Natalie Racy is. And he's just been a gentleman for 40 years. He's never raised his voice. He's never said anything that wasn't positive and uplifting. And his wife's the same way, and they're right there together on everything. Remarkable people, and I know there are many people like that in our community serving selflessly, and I think sometimes we take them for granted, but thank you very much for what you've done, John and Natalie. We appreciate it so much. And Mr. Gildersleeve, I just wanted you to know that guy sitting behind you, probably always going to be right behind you. Yes, sir. So, with that, I'll call for a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
All against, say those against, no? We're adjourned.